Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbies and Kens, Chelseas of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Considering Christopher, a Christopher Nolan movie podcast. I'm Jay, and with me I have my co-host. You and I share a secret, John. We know how easy it is to podcast. That ultimate taboo. It doesn't exist outside our own minds.
No, but sanity is overrated.
Oh, sure. Today we are here to talk about Christopher Nolan's third film, Insomnia.
Insomnia.
Sanity.
Yeah. That's what we get for doing this podcast. We get insomnia. We stay up watching this film.
Yeah, did you stay up to watch this? I didn't. I watched this.
I did not.
Okay.
I split my viewing in half.
Okay.
Because I was interrupted.
Oh.
And was like, you know what? I'm too tired to finish this. So.
Yeah, I did 2 viewings of 2 different versions, which we will talk about. But
right now.
Yeah, anyway, this was released May 24, 2002, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Hilary Seitz. This is the only Nolan film that Christopher Nolan didn't write himself.
Mm-hmm.
Either write or co-write. Hilary Seitz is kind of working infrequently as a writer. She wrote on Eagle Eye and The Unforgivable. But this is actually a movie based on a Norwegian film of the same name from 1997, directed by Erik Skolbard and written by him and Nikolai Frobenius. I doubt I'm pronouncing either of those correctly.
You're doing great.
But yeah, I did. In addition to watching Nolan's Insomnia, I went back and watched the original Norwegian film.
I think that was a J. Nicolaj.
Yeah, I never know how the different letters are pronounced in different languages.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting thing to go back and see the original and compare, and I'll be bringing up different thoughts as we go along. I try not to be too, caught up on that because that could get a little bit boring. But yeah, I prefer the Nolan version, though there are choices that the original makes that I actually preferred to what the Nolan and Seitz version does. But yeah, we'll get into specifics in a bit here. We have cinematography by Wally Pfister and score by David Julian. These are people we've been talking about for a while here with Nolan, sort of collaborators he's familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is, from what I can tell, there's less information about this film than a lot of other later Nolan films, but this is kind of his studio film. It's his first time working with an actual studio. And unlike his other films, he didn't bring this idea to the table. It was actually a screenplay that was already written. Sounds like it was shortly after the release of the Norwegian film, and it was initially going to be made by Jonathan Demme, who's the director of Silence of the Lambs, with Harrison Ford in the starring role. But after Memento, Christopher Nolan was brought on board with Al Pacino, and then Christopher Nolan actually is the one who brought in Robin Williams. He thought it would be a surprise to audiences to have Williams in this film sort of playing against his persona.
I think that was a fantastic choice.
Yeah, we'll get into it in the performance section. It's
right.
A pretty bold choice that I think works out really well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this film was shot on location in Alaska and British Columbia, which is also a really great decision, I think.
Oh, yeah. Looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is the plot description. So, a 17-year-old girl, Kay, is found dead in the town of Nightmute, Alaska. LA detective Will Dormer is sent in along with his partner, Hap Edcart, to aid in the investigation. Dormer is under investigation himself back in LA for planting evidence, and Edcart is considering taking a plea deal. And so Dormer sets up a stakeout to find the killer, and while chasing the suspect through the fog, Dormer accidentally shoots Edcart, killing him. Since he is already under investigation, Dormer begins to manipulate evidence to make himself look innocent. But one night, Dormer gets a call from Walter Finch, a local crime fiction author who admits to killing Kay. He also warns Dormer that he saw him kill his partner. Dormer reluctantly teams up with Finch to frame Kay's boyfriend. Meanwhile, Ellie Burr, an officer assigned to the seemingly perfunctory task of investigating Eckhart's death, begins to suspect that Dormer killed him. She goes to meet with Finch and is attacked by him. Dormer shows up and Finch tries to convince him to help him kill Burr and keep both of them out of jail. Instead, Dormer and Finch shoot each other and Finch dies. Burr offers to discard the evidence in order to clear Dormer's name, but Dormer stops her before he dies.
Yeah, sort of an interesting plot where it starts out as sort of like this investigation police procedural, which then sort of morphs into a cover up of a crime as Dormer sort of tries to cover his own tracks while also trying to solve this murder, and sort of then he has to team up, and sort of the morality there and kind of the back and forth.
Yeah. It's interesting. This is whenever I think about this film just seems like the least Nolan film out there. It's like the only thing I can think of it like it being Nolan's touch and handiwork is maybe like the way things look or are directed. Um, Maybe some editing choices here and there, but for the most part, it's just kind of basic for Nolan.
Yeah, I think there's some themes that carry over. But yeah, this
Right.
is the kind of thing you might expect, like David Fincher or maybe Martin
Hmm.
Scorsese, or someone who's more sort of in the police procedural and investigation genre, as opposed to Nolan, who's more known for sort of time bendy sci-fi type things. But obviously,
Hmm.
at this point, Nolan is started out as his career, so he's not doesn't have as much choice over what projects he gets to do.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The story itself is, I don't know, there's not a whole lot in it. You get the plot twist of him shooting his partner, and then the reveal of who the killer is really early in the film.
Yeah,
And
and then
so,
from that point, it's then we're sort of watching how Dormer, as an experienced detective, is able to cover up his own tracks here, but then also kind of dealing with the morality of it. Of does he turn himself in and reveal what's going on and put um, Finch in jail, or does he just keep going along? And there's this sort of worry that if he is found out for having killed Hap, then that'll put his previous sort of cases under scrutiny.
hmm,
Might lead to people being released who probably shouldn't be released. Although we'll get into sort of the what's going on with legality things here.
right. And of course, like Dormer throughout the film, after each day gets even more delirious because the film is about the insomnia that happens when you go to Alaska during the
Yes.
times where there's like no nighttime. It's just bright sun all day long, all night long too.
Well,
You
yeah,
can't
not quite bright side, but yeah, it's they're far north up enough that it's like the sun never fully sets, so it gets a little bit darker, but not actually dark.
right. Yeah. And so the tired man makes some choices.
Yeah, sort of that the insomnia setting in and him getting less and less coherent in having to make these big decisions. And
See,
we do get. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if half of that's a character choice or just Al Pacino just mumbling his lines, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, yeah. I think to sort of bring out some of the Nolan themes here, this is very much a film about people who are obsessed with their work. Usually with Nolan, it's more sort of an artistic idea, but here it's, this police officer who we don't know anything about his life outside of his work.
Hmm.
He's just sort of that is all he is to the audience, is a police officer. We don't know if he has a family, if he what his hobbies are or anything. For all intents and purposes for this film, his job is his life. And that's the thing Nolan is sometimes looking at, sort of the push and pull between someone's work and someone's family and other obligations. And here it's just all about the job, all about the work. Then we also have this sort of theme of lies and truth, which, especially these sort of middle period Nolan films, are all kind of dealing with. And we've talked about this quite a bit in
Yeah,
other
Dark Knight
episodes.
Rises, a similar concept.
Yeah. And yeah, we've been kind of tracking this, and I actually posited on, I think it's the Dark Knight Rises episode, where I was like, I don't know what movie will solve this for us. Maybe Insomnia has the answers. Well,
Hmm.
ironically enough, this is where I kind of had the epiphany that I don't know if Nolan is trying to say anything about lies versus truth, as opposed to just kind of exploring the idea. And
It's
like,
fun to explore
yeah,
for sure.
there's like the morality of, which is better, the truth that could bring about harm, or the lie that is stopping this harm, and then the lie gets discovered, and what does that do? So yeah, sort of a theme that is consistent in Nolan's films, even though we haven't really been able to pin down what he's
Hmm.
trying to say. And I'm kind of thinking at this point, maybe he's just not trying to say anything with that. Maybe he's just interested by the concept of it and kind of exploring different aspects. And then along with that, we have this idea of the ends versus the means. Sort of this question of, because presumably, well, not presumably, Dormer thinks he is doing the things he is doing for the right reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
I believe at one point they even mention ends and means.
He
Um,
so he tells his backstory about him planting evidence to the hotel lady,
yeah,
and he asks her like, "Do the ends justify the means?" And she's like, "Oh, just can you live with it?" That sort of thing.
yeah,
There's not a definitive answer to it. It's just what are you willing to live with is what it ends up telling you and asking you.
yeah.
So,
And the movie ends with Hilary Swank's character letting the truth win out, letting the means rather than the ends
hmm
win. And so that's actually a change from the original. In the original, the equivalent of Officer Burr actually helps cover up the crime, the sort of the killing of this officer, of this man's partner. So
hmm
I thought that was kind of an interesting change to the material, which I'll get into that a bit later when we talk about characters.
right. Yeah, I don't find. I don't know. There's not really much to really connect to the characters. I mean, it's
Yeah.
sad that Pacino kills his partner, but like I didn't really connect to him that much. Like he had a wife. That's where I really knew about him. That's about
Did
it.
he? I
Well,
couldn't remember.
sorry, not Pacino.
Oh,
Ed Cart's
okay.
Ed Cart had a
His
wife.
partner, yes, yes.
Yes. Question: what was the hotel lady doing sleeping in Pacino's bed?
Oh, I don't
Just
remember.
No, it's just like a random scene. It's just
In
like she's
the
just.
in the Norwegian version, there's actually a bit of a flirtationship between those characters that
Mm,
then the Pacino equivalent character in that film played by Stellan Skarsgård, who looks really a lot like Christopher Nolan, like distractingly so. Like I sent you a picture. He has
yeah.
the same haircut, the same general build, and like the same wardrobe as Christopher Nolan in this movie.
Hmm.
In this Norwegian film that Nolan had nothing to do with. This was before Nolan was even like dressing like that, because this is more like Inception era Nolan.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, the Stellan Skarsgård character in that one sort of has this flirtationship with the hotel manager that then he takes a bit too far and gets in trouble with, or not in trouble, but sort of she calls him out and pushes him away.
Right. Here it's just we don't get any of that, and
Yeah.
we just she's just there one scene and it's not brought up.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's not a ton of, because you could imagine a version of this where they lean a bit more into that or add a bit more. I think it's both it's a strength to the movie's sort of focus. It remains very focused on what it's trying to say, but yeah,
Hmm.
there isn't an emotional connection.
Yeah, I was more interested when I watched this the first time a few years ago, but
Okay.
on this rewatch, like I just, it's really Pacino's performance that just does it leaves a lot to be desired. That's for sure.
Okay. I think his performance is one of the better things in the film. But I also think what makes this interesting is sort of seeing the way he manipulates the police system. Since he knows the ins and outs, he knows how to swap out the evidence and what he needs to do. So it's kind of a police procedural in reverse.
Hmm.
Someone covering up a crime, and that's just kind of an interesting subversion to me. But yeah, again, on an emotional level, never quite resonated for me.
Yep.
So yeah, I gave the story maybe a bit of a harsh 3.5 out of 5. Again, I love the procedural stuff, and like a lot of the themes here I think are interesting, and we'll talk about the characters as well. Um but yeah, not as emotionally investing as like Interstellar.
Yeah, I gave the story a generous 3.5, but yeah, I felt like yeah, they needed some emotional core to just attach to this because right now there's just not much to really connect. Why do I care about Pacino's character? Um, he's the main guy that we're watching. That's it.
Yeah.
I care about Swank because I like Swank, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, let's dive into the characters here.
Oh boy. Yep.
We have Will Dormer here, and there's a line early in the film comparing good cops and bad cops.
Hmm.
And Will Dormer is very much a bad cop. He has good motivations, but he isn't afraid to get his hands dirty and to manipulate situations to get in his favor.
And get the preferred outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's doing things like planting evidence, and the planting evidence thing is this interesting question of he's convinced of this person's guilt, but in front of a jury there isn't enough evidence, so he plants some evidence. So there is a question there. I think the film doesn't dive into it too much of, is Pacino's judgment correct there?
Hmm.
Like, is he correct that this person was guilty or not? Um, but then we see just the way he conducts this investigation even is he's, scaring innocent teenagers who have, like, there's no reason to be scaring them. And then he frames a different teenager.
Yeah. I mean, he initially didn't want to frame him, but
Yeah. He he goes along with it, and he kind of, in this one it's a little bit more, he has a bit of an out because he's not the one sort of making these decisions. He's kind of going along with what Finch wants.
Right.
The interesting thing is that in the the Norwegian version, it's flipped. And the cop there is, his name is Jonas, and he's just a bad cop through and through. There's a thing where Pacino finds the body of the dead dog and shoots the bullet into it, to get the bullet out of the casing, but then also have the blood on it. Um, in the Norwegian version, he kills a live dog.
Hmm.
He doesn't find a dead dog. He lures a dog. He assaults multiple people, including a teenager. That scene in the car when he's with the girl's friend in the American version, he almost drives them into a truck. In the Norwegian version, he's like touching her inappropriately. And then in that one, he frames this teenager. It's his decision, um, instead of the killer's decision. And actually, we find out in the American version, um, we find out that this teenager was beating Kay. In the Norwegian version, that isn't true. That's a lie that he makes up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even worse character in the Norwegian version. The Hollywood version sort of softens a bit of his character here.
I mean, you don't really want to watch that sort of anti-hero character. It's
Yeah,
just not great,
I
but
mean, it is
it's taking
interesting.
away a lot of the choices going on here. Like, does we can move on.
Oh, I did also want to mention the other major difference is that, in that one, there's no internal affairs investigation into this cop.
Hmm.
So his motivation for hiding this killing is entirely sort of, he's just doing it because he wants to be innocent. He has no other motivation there. So yeah, you're watching this like bad character. He's not even an anti-hero. He's a villain protagonist who's getting away with these things. Um and then yeah, he ultimately, he doesn't die at the end of that movie, and the um Burr character helps him cover it up. And so that one is more, I don't know, it's a completely different sort of approach, but still the same narrative beats.
Sure.
Whereas the
Yeah.
Hollywood version has sort of been, it's not even like Hollywoodized, it's just sort of different. And yeah, because Dormer does terrible things, but he has slightly better intentions. We can understand where he's coming from a little bit more, versus the character in the Norwegian version is just bad through and through.
Yeah. Here he doesn't really go as so far down a dark path. He
Yeah,
always like stops before he gets there.
yeah, and he's more conflicted about it.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know that either is a better approach. Um, yeah, again, I found the Hollywood version better overall, but I do like a lot of the individual choices that the Norwegian version has to sort of hold this character a bit more accountable for the bad things he does.
Mm-hmm.
In the To the audience, in the narrative, he's actually not held accountable, but
But yeah, he's not suffering from a dead wife or.
yeah, there is, it is interesting having this be not only the only Nolan film that Nolan himself didn't write, but actually written by a woman. And to
Hmm.
have a different perspective than Nolan usually has. We don't have any dead wife, and the women characters in this film aren't solely defined by their relationships to the men in the way that sometimes Nolan characters are.
Right.
Um,
Is Dormer the closest thing to the Oppenheimer character?
Yeah, I don't know that this quite has an Oppenheimer figure. I think I think in terms of if we're defining the Oppenheimer figure very loosely as like a character who creates a situation that they then regret, maybe. But I don't know. He never feels his moral conflict never feels like he's worried about what he has done. He's worried about what he should do, if that makes sense.
Right. The only thing that we see so far that he's concerned about is like, oh, he killed his partner.
Yeah. And that was not a conscious choice on his part.
Right.
Which I initially was going to talk about a bit here, but I don't think there's this. The movie tries to have this sort of like, oh, what if he actually meant it? But I mean, it's pretty obvious that he didn't, even though it does sort of get this person out of the way who was going to sort of threaten his position and take a plea deal. But yeah,
Yeah, because it's really not unambiguous because like we do see that it's very foggy,
yeah, yeah,
and from the perspective it's like, oh yeah, there was no way you could tell.
yeah,
Like if they were wanting to do what they did, they could have just had like a split second where he does see his face,
yeah.
but we don't. So kind of ruins that
Well,
question.
yeah, not ruins it because I don't think that's the interpretation that they aren't trying to have that be ambiguous here.
Hmm.
But yeah, anyway, moving on, we have Walter Finch. Great name for a crime author.
Sure, yeah.
Like it's interesting because they changed all of the names from the Norwegian version, which yeah, that does make sense. They're very Norwegian names, except for the Walter Finch character. He could have just kept his name. I forget exactly what it was since I watched it a couple of days ago. Um, but they could have just kept the name from the Swedish version, but they don't. They give him the like, yeah, that's the stereotypical crime fiction author name, Walter Finch. He definitely sounds like he writes crime fiction.
Right. I mean, David Finch directs fiction, so
Fincher.
well, him too.
Yeah. What's interesting about this character is the sort of the interplay between his seeming normality and then how creepy he actually is. Um,
I mean, it all has to do with like our viewing of Robin Williams. Of course, we'll
yeah,
get more about his performance, but generally speaking, anything you see Robin Williams do, you just like, you just want to hug the man because he's just so charming in that nice teddy bear kind of way. Here, it's like, oh, like
yeah.
that's the nice guy, and he's the killer. I'm so confused.
For me, I found it interesting. I was watching sort of behind the scenes, and Robin Williams himself was sort of talking about the character and sort of this idea of playing it very restrained, and very soft spoken and a little bit quiet
Mhm.
in a way that sort of hides inner darkness.
Right. He's also such a nice guy generally because it's like, oh, you got all wet. Here, take a shower. Like, oh, take a nap. Use my towel. Do you
Yeah.
mind feeding the dogs? Like he's never just running away on the run. He's just like, oh, he just wants to be that nice guy.
Yeah, I think the key to his character is that he doesn't think of himself as a bad person.
Right.
He thinks that killing Kay was just an accident, which it wasn't just an accident from everything we know about it, from what we hear of the
Mm-hmm.
investigation. But Finch himself thinks of it as an accident, and that informs his view of himself.
Sure. Yeah.
He doesn't think of himself as a murderer. He thinks of himself as someone who has killed, but not as a murderer. And that sort of leads to his identifying with Will Dormer, um, and this idea of, oh, we both killed accidentally, even though they're very, very different and they feel very different about that. Finch doesn't seem to feel any overwhelming guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this interesting idea where we have Kay's boyfriend Randy, who in this film is like a bad person.
Right.
And Finch posits this idea of, oh, it's fine if we frame him because he did beat her, and who knows how much further he would have gone.
Mm-hmm.
He misses the irony that he's the one who went further.
Right.
Because again, in his mind, he doesn't think of himself that way. Yeah, it is interesting, sort of his character here, and like the depth of it. And I think a lot of it is William's performance.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, and a lot of this characterization is added in the adaptation. This killer character in the original Norwegian version is much less central to the story. Um, it's the Norwegian version is very much a a crime investigation film that is more about the investigator than the crime or the criminal. Here, it's a little bit more about both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next up, we have Ellie Burr. We sort of the three most important characters in this. She's the third.
Yep. No.
She's just kind of an interesting character. I like this thing where she looks up to Dormer, sort of the younger person who's, oh, you're men, or you're the person who inspired you is here. Um, and that kind of clouds her judgment a little bit until later, but it doesn't stop her from ultimately doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because yeah,
It also seems like she's the only one who takes her job seriously.
yeah, yeah, because everyone else is kind of
Like
sees it
joking it
as,
off.
yeah,
It's like she found a bullet casing. It's evidence. And they're like, case closed, whatever. It just doesn't matter.
yeah. And it's the interesting thing is that it's Dormer who's like, oh, are you sure you want to sign off on this? Make sure your name's on it, so you better make sure it's all correct. And that inspires her to then go out and look into the case a little bit further and ultimately discover, oh, wait, there is actually more here. Dormer didn't mean for her to do that. He was just kind of too
Well,
tired to think better.
well, maybe he did.
Maybe.
Because it's a small moment where it's like he could have easily just like accepted it and just like, okay, that's the easy way out. Maybe he wanted her to find a little bit more about it.
Hmm.
It's
That
like that's his
yeah.
conscience of saying it's like, like maybe this is like the right way of like let this rookie figure it out if
Yeah.
she can.
Yeah, that's not a bad point to bring up. Yeah, and ultimately she's sort of the good cop to Dormer's bad cop.
Mm-hmm.
Um she makes the decision to tell the truth rather than cover it up. She offers to cover it up and Dormer says no and then dies. And then she has a moment where she could, get rid of the evidence, but she doesn't.
Yeah. No. She's a good cop.
Yeah.
She's nice.
Yeah. I think she's maybe a little bit underserved by the ending. Um
Yeah.
just because it does end very abruptly, which I do like the kind of, okay, we've wrapped everything up. The audience can imagine what happens next pretty
Sure.
easily. But I think for her character, if there had been just a little bit more, even a scene of, the other cops show up at the scene and bring her back, and she's just sitting in the back of a car looking at the bullet casing or
Hmm.
something.
I like her figuring out the truth of like
Yeah,
going back to her own research of being like, oh, he has another gun, and her to finding the gun.
yeah. I almost wonder, you could tell this story from her perspective, and then it would be more of a twisty, turny movie.
Hmm. It'd be more of a mystery than just like knowing from the beginning everything practically,
Yeah,
except for why he's under investigation.
yeah. Now we have a lot of other sort of side characters. None of them are very um prominent. Like, they're important to the story, but they don't have a ton of impact on things, like
Right.
thematically.
Hmm.
I did just want to bring up Randy because he's the character in the original film who's he seems like not a bad person. But they
Yeah.
they changed that a lot for this adaptation. They and yeah, they're doing sort of, they're making things a bit less clear morally. Um, and his character sort of suffers from that.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't really care about Randy. He's that
Yeah,
jerk.
yeah. Again, in the Norwegian version, it's like he's much less of a jerk.
He just seems like such a fake jerk here. It's like I don't believe like that's right. Like it doesn't seem like a natural character. It's like,
Yeah, I think it is interesting that first scene, um, with him and when he's being interviewed initially, or not interviewed, examined, whatever, when they're in the
right.
classroom and Dormer's just like, "Hey, I know you're putting on this act. You're smart enough to not to know better." But then, yeah, I do think his character, kind of compared to the Norwegian version, is the most underserved here.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like okay, if the film ends and they went through framing the kid, it's so that the audience doesn't really feel that bad because
Yeah,
you abused the girl, which I don't know.
yeah.
It
Again,
seems kind of convenient.
yeah. It's this again. There's these decisions that I like in the Norwegian version that it's like it makes the morality a little bit of the protagonist a little bit thornier.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas here they've kind of, again, not simplified it. They've made it more sort of morally gray.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really only interesting for the irony of Robin Williams' character to talk about. It's like, oh, he could have done much worse.
yeah, yeah, sort of that lack of self awareness on Finch's part.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I gave the characters a 3.5 out of 5. Again, I think a lot of them are interesting. But yeah, comparing it to the Norwegian version, I think there's certain choices that this one makes that are, I find, a little bit less interesting.
Hmm. I also gave it a 3.5. They don't really stand that much to me as memorable characters, but they serve their purpose for the film.
Yeah. Next up, we have the visuals, and man, Alaska is beautiful, and British Columbia, where they filmed a lot of it.
Alaska is beautiful. It's nice. It's blue. Got the ice.
Yeah,
The we'll talk about the log set piece, but like that's the one visual that comes to mind. It's like interesting.
yeah, yeah. I like seeing Alaska, and just like in the background of the shots, or then it'll be like the focus of the shots and all of the driving scenes, and you're seeing these beautiful mountains and these lakes, and it's just like every movie should be set in Alaska. Like you get, this shot and it's just like, the characters are having a conversation, but behind them is the most beautiful thing imaginable. Like, yeah. Yeah, and it reminded me of a lot of my favorite parts of Oppenheimer because, again, and the Prestige because I like Nolan filming in nature. I think he's good at it. I think he finds interesting places and sort of, especially mountainous locations, and he's able to film it in a very interesting way. I kind of wish
Yeah.
he leaned into that a bit more than the sort of industrial aesthetic that he likes or the urban aesthetic that he likes in a lot of his other films.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the contrast between the darkness of the story and the constant daylight. I think that's just an interesting like push and pull
Sure.
because you could imagine this film taking place during the time in Alaska where it's always dark, and that sort of being, oh, it's the darkness. And actually I think there is like a TV show that takes place in like Iceland. It's a murder mystery and it's when it's always dark outside. So it's like, the darkness of the outside and the darkness of inside. And but I do like this contrast here instead where it's like, I don't know, there's something thorny about that I like.
Hmm.
Yeah, we get some very good like perspective stuff here that also reminded me of Oppenheimer, sort of putting us in the protagonist's head. Here it's more sort of this insomnia, this feeling tired, and we get some like the camera will focus in on something, or there's some like rack focus, but it'll be very quick. It'll suddenly do a rack focus where you're focusing on the thing in the background and suddenly in the foreground.
Hmm.
Yeah, just sort of capturing that. And listening to the behind the scenes stuff, they were trying very much to find ways to communicate being tired without making the audience feel tired. And I think they did a pretty good job at that.
Yeah. There was one where we were focusing on the wind wipers
Yeah.
and just how the movement is very uh, nauseous.
Yeah. Yeah, and the kind of thing that usually you don't notice while you're driving. But then when you're
Hmm.
very tired, that takes up your entire focus.
Right.
And then yeah, the some good set pieces here as well. The big one is obviously the log chase. As you were saying, that's sort of the thing that this film is kind of remembered for.
Hmm. I mean, it's just a cool idea, like hopping on the logs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think about log rivers like that, so it's a neat little visual.
Yeah.
Dangerous too when you get on the water. I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
like,
no. The and I think they do a good job communicating the danger of it.
mm-hmm,
Because I was thinking as they're hopping over these logs, I'm like, ooh, that seems a little dangerous. You fall under, and then Pacino falls under. Okay, yeah, they're actually addressing that.
mm-hmm, yeah, yeah. Alaska looks great. The nature elements like cabins in the woods, in the rocks, or the lake house here, they just look really nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I enjoy this movie on a visual level a lot. Just like watching and oh, here's Alaska, and it looks
Mm-hmm,
wonderful. So yeah, with that in mind, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Again, a lot of that is just it's Alaska.
sure. I give it a 4. It's well done. It's really nice, but it's not something that's memorable to me.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is fair to be like there aren't a ton of visuals that stick out to me, but when I'm watching it, it's like it's Alaska. What else could you want? It's like New
Sure.
Zealand. It's its own special effect.
I mean, New Zealand is special.
They're
but
both special. Anywhere
they're
with
both.
mountains is special
I
for me.
like New Zealand a lot more, but Alaska's pretty good too.
Yeah, the Alps, the Himalayas. Himalayas are a bit too snowy, but
Speaking of the Alps, we have the Alpacinos.
that was a very good segue.
Thank you, thank you. Talking about performances here,
Yeah,
he does really sell that tired look, but to me, it's just that's how I view Al Pacino, especially in the 2000s. Like before, he goes really crazy.
yeah.
Here, especially recently, it's like, oh, he's just tired. I don't know if I don't like the way he talks. It's just that whisper talk where it's like, how could he even capture that sound? It's just he's not doing anything.
Yeah, I like his performance here. I think he's doing a good job communicating the tired and a bit crazy. But yeah, I do think he's not functioning far outside his normal wheelhouse.
Sure.
Someone was commenting about how he says that he slept very little for this performance, but if that was just his normal process for making movies, it wouldn't be any different. Like it may not be a method thing; it might just be, oh, Al Pacino never sleeps.
Right. Yeah. He always seems like that. He always seems like he mumbles and talks like that. It's like almost phoned in. But I did like him in the beginning when he wasn't as tired. He was more charming then. But then, as the film goes on, it's like I don't really care about this
Yeah,
much. I don't think I don't know if Harrison would be any better. Just think maybe he would. It's
I don't
really
know.
it's
It,
really mid 2000s where he
yeah,
started to look and sound more like Al Pacino did in this film. So who knows?
yeah. Harrison Ford a little bit later than this, but at around this time, any role he's in, he looks like someone just woke him up from a nap to do the
Unless
scene.
it's Indiana Jones, where he actually cares
Yeah,
about the character.
yeah, and honestly, when he's in Force Awakens, it feels like he's a little bit more awake from that for that. But like Ender's Game is peak. I'm pretty sure he was just sleeping between takes, and they would shake him slightly to wake him up, and he would, oh, okay, what line are we on? Okay,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Just by the end of the film, I didn't really care for the performance.
okay,
It was the line delivery of just like how quiet he says things, like how just little effort it really seemed the way he spoke, and that could just be the way Pacino speaks. In that case, I don't like the way Pacino speaks. I'm sorry.
yeah. I didn't mind his performance here. It's again not gonna win my personal Oscar for the year, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
who would? Is this
I
the year
mean,
that I give it to? Oh, just a second. I'm gonna look this up.
there are worse performances to have, for sure. It's not the
Yes.
worst Pacino, but it's not the best Pacino.
Yeah, I'm less versed in his career, and I pay less attention to his career in general than I don't know. Actors as opposed to actresses, I'm more interested in actresses than actors. So I've never really followed Pacino with any sort of. Yeah,
I mean,
this year, I really
he's
like Andy Lau in Infernal Affairs or Wesley Snipes in Blade 2. I think
hmm,
those are the two. Maybe Shin Ha-kyun in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
this
Or,
is 2002, right?
yeah, Tom Hanks,
Hmm.
Catch Me If You Can.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe.
I do have our next person is on my list here, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. Oh, I love the guy. I miss him so much.
Yeah. Are you a Robin Williams fan in general?
Generally, yeah, I don't go out of my way to watch his films, but
Okay.
like, I'm always happy to see him in a film because he has just this natural, lovable charm in like anything he does, where it's like instantly you just want to like him.
Yeah.
Here, they use that against you, which I really like.
Yeah, I haven't honestly seen him in much. I've seen Aladdin and Flubber and maybe a couple of other things. Oh, robots, that barely counts.
What do you
Happy
mean that
Feet?
barely counts?
Well, because that's not, you're not seeing him. He's
It's
doing,
the same with Aladdin. You're not seeing him
but
there.
Aladdin is like, yeah.
Still
Anyway,
animation.
yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, he's just such an inspired choice for this,
Hmm.
and he plays things so reserved and quiet. And since he's sort of known for being a bit zany and out there and big and energetic, there's something kind of just inherently creepy about him holding back that much. Something that feels just off compared to his persona in general.
Right, yeah. He's typically never the bad guy. And
Yeah.
so seeing him be the bad guy, be like this killer as well, is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking up right now some examples of comedic actors in dramatic roles because it is, and yeah, on this list, Robin Williams in um, Insomnia. But yeah,
I'm
it is sort of like the seeing a comedic actor do a more serious performance. It can either be sort of like, oh wow, they're doing a really great job selling this drama, or it can be sort of the creepy of like, oh, something feels off here. And yeah, no, Nolan and Williams are definitely sort of weaponizing that to sort of sell just how creepy this character is. And that the character doesn't think of himself as creepy. The character has a different view of himself than the actual truth of who he is.
Yeah, and he's not one of those over the top evil characters who's like,
No.
I'm gonna go kill all the ladies now. I'm like, here's my evil moral thing. Here he's just like he tries to be the nice guy, tries to relate to Dormer. He doesn't think he's doing the bad thing, but he will go far enough because things.
Yeah. Honestly, he has more similarities in that sense to the Dormer character in the Norwegian version of the film.
Hmm.
Although that character is still very much racked by guilt, but sort of less. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting contrast between him and the Pacino character here, and their performances as well. Yeah. Next up, we have Hilary Swank, who, I mean, she's just a phenomenal actor. At this point, she's won one Oscar
I think she's won
on her way
two.
to the second one. I think the
Didn't she
second one
win
was
two?
$1 Million Baby in 2005.
I know that uh, she's such an underutilized actress. Like she's great in most roles that she does, but
Yeah.
she had to get herself blacklisted because she was so good. Uh,
Yeah. It definitely, her career definitely isn't as strong as you would hope.
Hopefully a comeback one day.
Yeah.
Just she's just so
Yeah. I've been seeing stuff, trailers for The Good Mother every time I go to the theater. That looks not great.
hmm.
She was in The Hunt, that controversial movie from a few years ago. That's actually not terrible. But yeah, she's doing a lot of, and I mean, part of it is just it's difficult for women once they reach a certain age to find good roles.
Yeah, probably.
As opposed to like, for actors you have sort of, once you age out of the young actor, then you go into like the leading man, or like the Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, where a lot of their contemporaries are no longer leading movies. They're playing, the mother or grandmother even sometimes.
She doesn't really follow that sort of trajectory. There is probably a little bit more shenanigans behind the scenes involved, but it's a real shame. But she does a solid job here.
Yeah,
Not as much to do, but still good.
yeah. Again, I do kind of wonder what this film looks like if if it's about her character as opposed to Dormer's character, if she's the protagonist. What does that look like? Is that a better movie? Maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe it'd be it'd be another good movie, probably.
Yeah, very different film, definitely.
It'd be more of a mystery, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you'd see much less of Robin Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That would be honestly, you know, if they were to remake this again, maybe a different country picks up the rights to it. You know, what does a Hong Kong version of this look like, and then
Mm,
get it switch the perspective a bit. But yeah,
who knows?
anyway, we have a lot of other sort of smaller roles here. Not a ton of people who stood out to me. Did you recognize
No.
Martin Donovan as Hap Eckhart?
He is. Did we see him in another film?
Yeah, he is in one scene of Tenet. He's the one who
Uh,
explains to the protagonist when he wakes up after, like at the very beginning.
okay, then no. I don't know
No,
who he is.
he's very much sort of that character actor. He'll pop up in things, and I just happened to recognize his face and looked him
Mm.
up. Maura Tierney as the hotel manager. She was pretty good. Again, I think that's a role that could have been expanded a bit more. Not to say, I mean, I like that this film is as focused as it is, but just sort of like thinking of a different world, an alternate reality.
Yeah, she doesn't get much to do.
Yeah. So yeah, I gave the performances a 4 out of 5 here.
Yeah, me too.
So last up, we have the sound. We have the score by David Julian, and then also just the general sound design, which honestly reminded me of Oppenheimer, again, in a kind of weird way, since it's putting us inside of Pacino's head as he's getting more and more tired. And you're having sort of certain sound effects are being boosted as he sort of his focus is shifting to different things. Yeah, Oppenheimer gets a lot more experimental with it, but there is some of that like experimentation here.
Yeah, sure. Especially like when they're focusing on different objects that don't really matter, like a pencil tapping or the wind wipers.
Yeah, yeah,
The
and this,
music is fine.
yeah, I
It's
didn't really notice it
it's
much.
generally good.
Yeah,
Like it's a lot more than just basic soundtrack, but it's still not as memorable.
yeah.
But it's
Honestly,
good.
rewatching a lot of these, I'm like, really, it's only maybe Oppenheimer and a bit of Tenet and a bit of Inception and then Interstellar. Those are the only Nolan soundtracks that stand out to me.
And some Batman.
Yeah, a little bit of Batman. For me, I'm less of a fan of like the main themes of the Batman movies. So
Well,
yeah, but yeah, again, not a bad score by any means, just not particularly memorable. So yeah, I give the sound. I'm gonna bump that up. I'm gonna give the sound a 4 out of 5. Again, for that sort of more experimental stuff that we see then come back in Oppenheimer.
Well, I gave it a 3.5. I'm upping it, so
Okay.
that's my total score of an 18.5, which is 74% or a 3.75 star rating.
Yep, mine is a 19.5 out of 25, which is a 78% or a 3.9 on our 5-star scale. Yeah, I am kind of surprised that you didn't like this, that I like this more than you. I don't know, for some reason it seemed more like something you would be into.
Sure, but I'm not really into it that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
Again, it's
As we
Pacino. It's Pacino.
as we kind of get further and further along in these Nolan films, I am surprised how much our thoughts on these sort of line up.
Hmm.
We have had sort of similar placements of these in our rankings here, which will make the ranking episode in a few weeks pretty interesting.
Sure, probably, most likely.
Yeah, different than the Barbie movies, where I think, although we agreed often on those as well.
We agreed often, but our numbers were way different.
Yeah, here we've been matching numbers a bit more.
Yeah, well, we both know art when we see it. For the most part.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope
You more than me,
after how
but
many. Well, I also just watched way too many movies.
yeah.
Like I watched the Norwegian version of Insomnia for this podcast.
But yeah. Insomnia is it's one of those weird Nolan films where it's like, I don't know if it really it's like that distant cousin. Like it's technically Nolan. There are some elements that are Nolan, but I don't know. It just doesn't really feel like the most Nolan film.
I mean, it is interesting. This is often cited as the one of the most underrated Nolan movies, including by Nolan himself.
Sure, yeah, it is underrated for sure, but
Yeah,
I can
Nolan
see
has
why
cited
it's
it.
not as remembered as much.
Yeah, no, Nolan has sort of cited it as a very important film to his filmmaking, as sort of his first studio film, and he's working with big name actors and sort of before Batman Begins, which kind of changed the direction of his career. Because there is a
Hmm.
version of his career where he goes on to, maybe he does Batman Begins and it isn't quite as successful and continues to make more thrillers like this one, sort of studio films.
Hmm.
Maybe ends up more with like I don't know any of the thriller guys. Because Fincher gets to decide his own career a bit more.
Ridley Scott, maybe,
Yeah,
depending on the day.
yeah, Ridley Scott's thriller career, because he has like 5 different film careers. Because
Yeah,
he also has his sci-fi movies and his war epics and his all of those things.
does Abram count? That's more of an action thriller, Abrams.
Yeah, but Abrams is sort of like the studio guy.
Yeah, especially recently.
Yep. Matt Reeves kind of. Matt Reeves is probably a
Ooh.
good analog
Oh yeah, definitely.
to what Nolan could have been. And that kind of makes me wonder, like, what if Matt Reeves's career had taken off as much as Nolan's career? What would he be making now instead of the Batman 2, which I am excited for the record, but
Yeah, I liked his Planet of the Apes films. He did a really good job.
yeah.
I don't think he's like on Nolan's level of interesting concepts, but he does know how to do good emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's one of those, he's just a good director. Like he knows how to create a tone and a mood and have a interesting setting and good performances.
Yeah.
But yeah, his concepts don't distill as simply as Nolan's do maybe.
Hmm. if he doesn't dream as big, he like lets things sit down closer to Earth so we can relate to it more. Nolan's like, I'm gonna do a big brain move. Space, Tenet, time,
Yeah.
dreams.
Although part of that is also, Nolan has the space and the budget for it.
Yeah.
And he paid his dues. He had to make The Dark Knight before he could make Inception, but then he made Inception and it worked, and now Oppenheimer is gonna make almost $1 billion. That's ridiculous. It's good. It's also just like, why? What? How?
It's the Barbenheimer. That's what it did.
I mean, honestly, that's part of it. I think it's also just, Oppenheimer's a good movie that people like watching. But yeah, I do think the internet phenomena does help with that as well.
Oh, for sure.
Without Barbenheimer, it makes 500 million, which is still impressive. Actually, might even make 600 or 700 million, which is. But yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to follow us on social media. We are Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram and Tumblr, Binging Barbie on Twitter and Serialized, and Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast on Letterboxd. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a 5-star review. We'll be back next week to talk about Christopher Nolan's second film, Memento. Since we're going backwards, we're doing this Memento style, so we're finally getting to Memento.
The film where it's all about.
Yep. Oh yeah, see you then.
Yeah, let's start the podcast now. All right, welcome to Binging